So linear row machines are getting pretty damn popular, and I definitely get why. They give you a straight linear path, they let you isolate your back, and they make it easier to push safely close to failure. But by themselves, linear rows take up a lot of floor space. So Lionscool is trying to justify that footprint by turning this machine into a 2-in-1, a linear row and a leg press. To me, that either sounds like bold innovation or a budget machine straying too far outside the lines. So in this review, I'm testing it all, the linear row, the leg press, the transition between movements, and whether this machine has any other sneaky functions available for us. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hey guys, Chris here with Strength and Steel Reviews. I'm a father, I'm a personal trainer, and clearly a home gym equipment reviewer. And lately, in this gym, in this garage, I've been spending a lot of time with Lionscool equipment. And honestly, it's been a bit of a rocky road. I reviewed their hack squat leg press combo, which I actually did love. I also reviewed their lying leg curl / leg extension, the V4, which I liked. And most recently, I reviewed their seated leg curl machine / leg extension, which I did not like much at all. And yet somehow they still want to work with me, which I definitely appreciate and respect. And yeah, I do mean respect because I have to give Lionscool credit. After that last review, I thought they might be a little reluctant to send anything else my way, but nope, they send this out to me for free, and if you can't tell, they're not directing my speech in any way. That said, if by the end of this video you're interested in this machine, you want to buy it for yourself, you can use my code STEEL24 to get an additional 3% off, or you can hop over to Amazon, whichever. I'll have both links below in the description for you. But okay, so before we discuss how these movements actually feel, let's cover what you're getting with something like this. At the time of this review, the Lionscool 2-in-1 sells for about $580, and it includes a 2-year limited warranty. At its core, you have a plate-loaded carriage traveling along 2 guide rods that are positioned at approximately 45 degrees. Now, Lionscool does rate this machine for up to 700 pounds, and you're certainly not going to find me testing that claim, and I'm not sure that you should be either. I'm sure I'll mention that at least one more time during this review, but that's only because it bears repeating. Because this is a budget piece, and it feels like one. This isn't made by Rep Fitness or Rogue. This is Lionscool. It's cool, but I wouldn't say it's the coolest, and I wouldn't encourage you to let it roar like an actual lion, let it growl, or even consider letting it purr every now and then. There are several adjustment points all throughout the machine, including the seat and backrest angles, and there are 3 different grip positions for the linear row. The leg press footplate is also removable, but the angle on it is not adjustable, which I will complain about later in this review. I do not love that. But okay, that's a broad overview. You've got the specs, you've got some general information. Let's talk about the first movement. Let's talk about the linear row. So here you get 3 different grip positions. 2 are knurled, and the knurling is surprisingly nice, like really good. I'm not sure why Lionscool went for it here, but I am here for it. I like that they did. Now, the 3rd grip position uses cheap rubber instead. And of course, I would have preferred knurling here too if I were to nitpick. And truthfully, I will say I don't love the innermost grip. It feels a little too narrow, a little too far forward, likely because the bar has to create some additional clearance around my knees and around my torso, but I still don't like how close it is together. And when you have 3 grip positions and you don't like one, I think that matters. But the other 2 positions do feel pretty good. I still would have liked more options similar to what I experienced on the Gym Muscle O version or on Mikolo's SR07. Perhaps I'm spoiled now, I don't know, but after testing both, I've really come to appreciate how you can experiment with different grip widths and different grip angles when you have multiple grip positions. It's nice to have. It keeps training not just effective, but also keeps it more fun. And I've come to better understand these contoured bars with the linear rows also. They do offer some meaningful benefits that I didn't previously consider. For one, they give you more freedom to position your body over the carriage without the bar interfering with either your knees or your torso. That allows you to experiment more with the range of motion, with where you feel the best contraction. I think that's really nice. And it becomes extremely beneficial when you're trying to perform an exercise like a Romanian deadlift. Now, initially, when I heard about the linear row's ability to perform a Romanian deadlift, I thought it might be a gimmick, but after going to Home Gym Con and having almost every company show me a linear row and also made a point of demonstrating how they could do RDLs, I've become convinced. I understand that you can indeed perform RDLs on a linear row. It's real, it works. And a large part of that capability comes down to the range of motion. The guide rods have to travel close to the floor, and they have to give you a long, strong stretch at the bottom in order for you, of course, to do a complete row, but in this case, to do a complete RDL. So yeah, I do think that's something to keep in mind. In addition to the linear row function, you can perform another major compound movement, which would be an RDL. And yes, it actually works and it actually feels good and you can actually do it. Oh, and because the rails sit at approximately 45 degrees, the resistance feels heavier, which means ultimately you're going to require less plates, which is definitely a good thing in my book. Less weights mean less pressure, less setup time, and it makes a transition from one movement to the next just a little bit easier, even if it's still pretty annoying. And a few additional complaints: no matter how much I tighten it, the seat pad still wobbles a bit. Generally, once you're planted against the pad and you're actively rowing, the movement does feel stable enough. So neither issue ultimately affects the exercise that much, but if you don't like any kind of instability at all, you're not gonna like that. And overall, as far as the feel of the linear row, it feels pretty darn smooth. It feels good. The range of motion is top tier. That's something that these linear rows, at least the good ones, are definitely ensuring they can do. There's a complete range of motion here, and this contoured bar makes it far more versatile than it might initially appear. Again, being able to do those RDLs, pretty cool. That said, I would have preferred more and better grip positions, but the two primary positions do work really well. 3 in total. I just don't like that one towards the center. It's not my favorite. But okay, let's talk about switching this thing over to the leg press. And yes, I do mean switching it over, because this isn't exactly an instant transition. First, you're going to want to remove the weight plates, which I don't like. I wish I could just leave them on. It's another step. I don't like additional steps, but you're gonna have to do it. From there, you reposition the safeties, you install the backrest, and then you attach the leg press footplate. First, I'll say that switching the backrest over can be kind of awkward at first. There are just these 2 plastic pieces that kind of settle into these cut holes, and finding the correct place takes some trial and error, but I'm sure just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get. And to lock the footplate in, there are these 2 metal tabs and there's a locking pin that you use to secure it to the carriage. It isn't complicated, but it does take a little practice to install correctly. At first, you're gonna stare at it in confusion, or at least I did. Maybe you're smarter than me. Probably you're smarter than me, but even then, it's gonna take a little bit of practice, I would imagine. And size-wise, the footplate is about what you would expect. It needs to be light enough to remove and to install, but wide enough to provide a comfortable platform for a legitimate leg press. I think that Lionscool did find a reasonable balance between the two. Don't expect some enormous footplate. That's not going to be the case here, and trust me, considering the nature of this machine and its design, that would bite us in the butt anyway. And it's also nice that there's a handle built into the footplate that might seem like a minor addition, and I guess it is, but in my opinion, it's these small conveniences that matter greatly in the long run. But unfortunately, Lionscool didn't provide anywhere to store the footplate while the machine is in linear row mode. And I don't like that. Right now, I literally have this enormous piece of metal just lying on the ground beside the machine somewhere, where its very existence annoys me every time I look at it. I like things to have a place, and I would have liked it if Lionscool had thought ahead here and found a place for it. But I guess a larger issue for me would be that the footplate is not adjustable. You can't change the angle. To me, an adjustable footplate is a necessity on a leg press. A lot of people have limited ankle mobility, they've got tight hips, and a fixed angle will undoubtedly affect their comfort, their depth, and overall their experience with the movement. Now, I did see Kinsey's solution for this, where she modified the backrest setup so she could slide it farther down and recline it almost all the way to the ground. That gave her a better hip position and allowed her to perform the movement much more comfortably. It was a creative solution, but I don't think that kind of modification should be a necessity on a machine specifically designed to function as a leg press. The good news is that the carriage provides an excellent range of motion. Both shorter and taller users should have enough travel to achieve legitimate depth without reaching the end of the guide rods For reference here, I'm 5'9". I get asked that all the time. I forget to say it, so here I am saying it. Now, as I mentioned ever so briefly before, Lionscool does rate this machine for up to 700 pounds, which if you're going to try doing, it's gonna be on the leg press. And I'm not here to verify that claim, but I am here to warn you once more. Personally, I loaded about 3 plates on each side, and that's about as far as I'm willing to push it. I probably could have put 4 on, but this is still a budget machine, and I don't feel personally compelled to discover its true structural limit with my body beneath the carriage. If you're more daring, go for it, but if you're looking for a heavier leg press where you can really push some weight, I don't think this is it. Lionscool advertises a 5-position safety system, although the available positions still feel somewhat limited in practice. The higher settings interrupt the depth I prefer, while the lower positions may not provide the ideal stopping point for every user. I definitely think they could have positioned these stoppers in more advantageous positions. But once everything is settled, I'll say the leg press does feel pretty legitimate, maybe more legitimate than I initially expected. It is not merely a throwaway secondary function added to justify the 2-in-1 label. It actually works, but this unusual design, as you can see in here, does come with some meaningful trade-offs that I think you should be aware of. And as I go through the edit, I see that somehow I didn't mention that you can do calf raises on the leg press despite the fixed angle on the foot plate. They feel surprisingly comfortable and effective, so yeah, you can do them. Okay, so final thoughts. This is a budget piece, man, and it feels like a budget piece, and you should expect that if you didn't expect it already. If you didn't, I'm here to warn you. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Lionscool is a budget company. The linear row feels pretty good. The RDL functionality is legitimately useful, and the leg press works better than I had expected. But you should not expect the same materials, the same tolerances, or the overall confidence in the structural integrity of the piece that you would get for a heavier, more expensive, more dedicated leg press. Speaking of, if you're mainly looking for a really capable leg press, you're probably going to need to invest a little more home gym real estate and probably a little bit more from your wallet. For example, like I said earlier, Lionscool's hack squat leg press combination is awesome. I reviewed that a few months back and I loved it. So if leg training is your priority, maybe check that one out instead. But if you're looking to justify the footprint of a linear row by also adding, somewhat surprisingly, a leg press, this may be worth considering. Just be prepared for a foot plate that does not adjust, a conversion process that takes some effort, and yeah, some obvious design compromises. I would imagine somebody who wants this should really like linear rows, be excited about them, but want one more function that they can play with. And as long as you're not looking to dedicate an insane amount of weight to it, the leg press can be that excuse to buy a machine like this. Anyway, that's it, folks, or that's all, folks, whatever. Like the video, comment to support the great enigma that is the YouTube algorithm, and you guys know the deal. You stay strong and you stay steely, and I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.